Okay everyone, welcome to the 2024 Mustang GT Convertible, and let's go take this thing out on a drive. It'll pop up the windows now. We do have the top down because it is a convertible. We have to experience the V8 sound, but this thing has a lot of modes and features to go through before we head off. So of course, we do have a fully functional and quite clear reversing camera, which is quite nice, though unfortunately we only have rear parking sensors and no front parking sensors, which is a little bit of a miss, I think, on this car, especially with such a wide hood. Either a front camera or parking sensors would be a nice feature to have on this Mustang GT. That's almost $70,000 as tested. Now we have plenty of drive modes as well, accessed from the steering wheel on the left hand side here. So you can see we have sport here, normal, there's a custom mode, slippery mode, drag strip, track, and of course we have sport as well, and each of them will give you these really cool animations. And if you have the sound enabled, a sound will be kind of play between them, though it's been a little bit glitchy over the past this week, which you can disable, which thankfully we did, because the turn signal actually turned into that sound, which very strange situation, but maybe there's a heat kind of affecting that. Now you also do have this Mustang button over here. When you're not in the screen, it will pop open to this Mustang kind of performance page area over here, and this is where you're going to be able to access your exhaust mode system here. If you do have that enabled, you can go in quiet exhaust, normal, sport, and then track. As you can see, each of those exhaust modes is going to give you a pretty nice and loud sound profile. Especially if you want to keep it quiet, you can have it set to quiet starts as well. Heading off over some bumpy pavement before we head onto road, honestly quite good. Now we're in normal mode right now, which means the Magnaride dampers that this one does have optioned are in their softest setting, and honestly there's a pretty strong range of stiffness that these dampers can go from sport up to track. Though the one annoying thing is even in your custom modes, you are actually not able to kind of change how those dampers feel unless you kind of change the drive mode. It's a little bit confusing for the custom modes, but once you get used to it, I think you can kind of play around with some of the settings that are adjustable. Now, the fun thing is with this active exhaust that you get on this new Mustang is that even if you're in normal mode, you can enable track exhaust, and that will really open up this V8 to really roar up to red line. And this is one of the amazing things with Ford's Coyote V8 is they've gotten to tune the sound and just the overall general feel of this engine so well that it kind of reminds me a little bit of the old Maserati Grand Cabrio and Gran Turismo's naturally aspirated V8 that was derived from Ferrari. It has this really loud scream to it when you're really on it. Though if you're being a little bit more gentle, it does kind of ease itself up just a bit. We'll pop it out into sport mode here before heading out onto the highway. You can lock it into manual mode or just use the paddle shifters. And as you can hear, it really opens that exhaust up. So how is this 10-speed automatic to use? Now we're in sport mode now. Of course you can use track and drag mode, but you know, rolling through the gears yourself is pretty quick upshifts and downshifts. Though they're so seamless and kind of devoid of any strong kind of feel or jerk back to it that it's a little bit almost too computerized, if I might say. I wish there was a little more aggression tuned into this gearbox. Maybe they could have considered putting in the dual clutch that was in the old GT500 into this Mustang, but alas, it still gets the job done. And of course you can get the the 6-speed manual if you do choose so as well. Coming up here, we can do a quick little launch to test our 0 to 60 times. This thing is pretty fast. If you get a good surface and good traction off a launch, this thing can see 0 to 60 in around 4 seconds. Some people have seen 3.9, and even in like the 4.2 second range. All is pretty quick and very theatrical with this car. It's a very loud V8 engine under the hood and that variable exhaust system. But now we're up here in the mountain roads. How is it to drive? Well, I'm going to pop back into normal mode just for a second so we can hear ourselves. And this is where it's a little bit of an interesting bag here. Now, Ford has fitted this $5,000 performance package to this particular Mustang GT we have here, which gives you upgraded tires, brakes, strengthened chassis stiffening, you know, a little more aggression and stuff, and it does honestly work right well. You know, at first the Mustang may feel a little squirrely getting into, but once you kind of trust a little bit, you can kind of feel that mechanical grip is actually there. The limited slip differential is kind of keeping you on the road and planted. There's a little bit of some rear wheel kick out that you may experience. It is a Mustang at the end of the day, but it's definitely more toned in and tuned as more of a performance vehicle than ever before. Now, the downside for this convertible is that there is a significant amount of cowl shake going across bumps. As you may just notice right there, the whole body structure is just kind of rattling over these bumps. And I haven't really experienced that in a lot of modern convertibles, especially getting out of some German competitors that are a little bit at a higher price point. You don't really experience that. I don't want to call it unrefinement, but it almost just is that there. I wish for this S650 platform they could have really kind of toned down that body shake and structural movements there we're seeing over bumps in this convertible model to get it to be the same kind of stiffness we're going to see in the fastback, but you still have that performance there, and the bare bones of this chassis are still really solid and put to the ground. Now, with these wider tires and the setup on the Mustang, you may experience a little bit of some kind of unsteadiness and hopping around some corners and if you're on some bumpy roads and pavement. And another interesting point here is the steering. Now, this is probably one of the best steering systems on a Mustang, though unfortunately for the driver, if you're someone that's really valuing a lot of steering feedback and feel, you're not really going to find that here. It's a little bit over boosted and a little bit electronic for my personal taste, though it is still quick and very direct. And as you can see, it kind of helps to kind of steer this Mustang really well around corners, aiding in with the magnetic dampers and this kind of sportier setup we have with this performance package. This is a pretty good handling Mustang for what it is. You have to remember, this is still a GT at the end of the day. It's supposed to be doing both cruising and comfortable nature with that, just letting that V8 roar. I think that's the real magic with that exhaust system here. You can have that GT aspect, having that performance sound and look and feel without really diving into those sportier aspects, but it has that capability now. It does it quite well, just not to the level of a more toned in refinement of some European competitors. Let's head up back this mountain now. We're going to pop into our sport mode, and I am going to open some cool performance gauges that you can actually have access on this Mustang called auxiliary gauges, which may look a little bit simple at first, but you can actually unlock them to unveil a whole bunch of really fun auxiliary gauges. And with all the customizable looks and drive modes of this thing, it's honestly a lot of fun stuff. You can also quickly check your Mustang status in your digital cluster over here. And let's open up this car going up the mountain a little bit. So the Mustang definitely can handle, and once you start pushing it is really where that performance aspect to the GT comes alive, especially with this GT performance and handling package. You know, I have to say, if you're going to be wanting a Mustang GT convertible and really just want to be mainly cruising around with it, maybe on the beach, on the shore, or just going out on nice drives all the time, don't opt for this $5,000 package. You're really going to be hampering, I think, a little bit more of that comfort and cruising aspect to this Mustang if you do opt for that package and you're not really looking for that level of performance. Though, if you want that side of this vehicle, you can get it. And it's probably going to be one of the best handling Mustangs you've driven to date. And the best part about this new Mustang is also its customizability. So let's say you're in sport mode, or really with whatever mode you're in, and you don't really want all these funky, crazy, digital looking gauges. Well, you can really put it in any gauge theme you want, even in that classic retro looking Fox body style gauge, which at night does glow green just like the original car did. Really cool touch there. I kind of like this new implementation of digital screens and how they're really able to kind of customize vehicles in even some old historical ways. Fiat's been doing this, Volkswagen's now going to start doing this on some newer digital displays, so I'm glad to see Ford is kind of hopping on the bandwagon here as well. But even in sport mode, I can turn on the track display and get this really aggressive tachometer right in front of me. Definitely going to be a little bit more helpful if you do opt for the manual version of this car, but I honestly will just leave it in a normal or sport half the time. I think these are just really nice looking gauges, and since this display is just easy to touch, use, it's pretty quick, you can also change your colors right on the fly. If you don't really like your green, you can change it over to blue or another color and kind of customize all of the gauge clusters and ambient lighting in this car on the fly. Really easy for you, and this is just very BMW-esque in a way, I think, of an iDrive sort of layout, which is not a bad thing. I think Ford's really kind of toned down their graphics and infotainment system to be user-friendly and customizable. And yes, you may not like the giant screens in a Mustang and may miss the analog gauges, but once you start using it in person, I think it actually works quite well. In sport mode, you can hear it downshifts automatically for you when it detects some sportier driving. When you're definitely on it, that 10-speed offers dual clutch level shift speeds. Even though they may not be super aggressive, it will get moving really fast. Now, 10 speeds, is it enough? I think it's too much. You know, you essentially have almost 3 overdrive gears in this car from 8, 9, and 10. So you're really going to be, when you're shifting yourself, playing in that lower gear range. But since this is a naturally aspirated, high revving V8, you'll be moving through them pretty quickly with the amount of power this thing is putting to the road. So what's best to really sum up this Mustang GT convertible? Well, if you're looking for something that's, you know, super precision, super toned in, really well-built interior, solid chassis experience and everything, you're really not going to be finding that here. That's going to be something you're going to get from like a 911 or a Porsche or BMW or Mercedes style level of product. But if you want that classic cruising GT level experience that you're going to get out of a Mustang with that modern refinement, modern technology, modern looks, and honestly quite impressive chassis tuning and packages that really even enhance that capability even further, that's what this Mustang is going to be for you. And I think we shouldn't even be looking too much to pick it apart, as it is really the only V8 4-seater convertible left made in the American market right now. So it's a special one. It's filling the shoes of essentially 3 iconic previous muscle vehicles into one, and it's doing both sides, I think, pretty well in its own unique way. So that's the best to sum up this Mustang experience. It's still undercutting a lot of other competitors in terms of price, and for features you're getting, I think it's still worth it. As always, thanks you guys for watching this video, and stay tuned for more coming on Allcarnews.